Mark Taylor. Welcome to the program, sir. It's great to have you back on.
Thank you, Sheila. It's an honor to be back on your show again.
Well, it's great to have you on, Mark. Well, listen, I mean, there's so much that has happened since the last time I had you on the program. We did not have all this Brett Kavanaugh insanity that we just saw take place in the last 4 weeks. There has just been one thing after the other, after the other. It is just a whole new insane asylum here. Now, this is really timely too, Mark, because, of course, speaking of Brett Kavanaugh, well, you've got the big witches showdown coming this weekend coming up. Saturday, October 20th. Every witch in the world is going to be hexing and vexing Brett Kavanaugh. And along with that, they're going to be binding Trump. A lot of the top high-level Brooklyn witches are kind of putting this thing on. Oh, and guess who the sponsor of this big event is? And all the proceeds are going to go to our favorite place. Guess who it is, Mark?
Planned Parenthood.
That right there. Yeah, I mean, it's laughable, isn't it?
You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. There's a lot going on right now, and you have to understand what's going on in the spiritual realm. But speaking of the whole Kavanaugh thing, everybody was worried about Kavanaugh getting in. He's going to get in. He's going to get in. And we get the same thing over and over. Every time something happens, I get my emails start going nuts. My Twitter, my Facebook, I get people hounding constantly, oh my gosh, something's going to happen. Kavanaugh's not going to get it. It's like, folks, stop. Take a deep breath for a minute. You know what I mean? Realize that God's got a plan in place. If Kavanaugh was not the man, then God would have had someone else in there. But he's part of the plan. So we've just got to walk in faith right now with everything that's coming. And people need to prepare themselves for what's coming. We'll go into that in a few minutes. But the Kavanaugh thing, everybody thought that it was about Roe versus Wade. Well, it is, but it isn't, Sheila. You have to go back to the line of questioning that Lindsey Graham did, and I'm paraphrasing. He asked him in front of the entire nation, he said, if a civilian is charged with treason, can they be charged under civil law or military law? And he said military law. Sheila, that was a nuclear bomb that went off in the spirit for the enemy, for the cabal, the elites, the globalists, everyone who's been into corruption in this country who's a leader and abroad. So, I mean, when he said that, it was just like this nuclear bomb went off. That sent shockwaves right there, and that's why they were trying. See, that's why exactly they were disguising it as Roe versus Wade, trying to pull on people's emotions and their heartstrings. Oh, no, we can't get rid of Roe versus Wade. It had nothing to do with that from these elites. People like Dianne Feinstein, it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the military tribunals that are coming. They know they needed a solid 5-4 vote because he was replacing the swing vote, if you remember. Now we have a solid 5-4 vote for anything that would come up through the Supreme Court right now, and that's what the president needed in place. So there's a bunch of stuff happening. So this whole Kavanaugh thing, and I had tweeted out on my Twitter feed that the second that Judge Kavanaugh is confirmed, the clock starts. Well, when he got confirmed, the clock has started. So now all these things that are starting to take place, you're starting to see movement. Now, even publicly, you're starting to see movement. There was some stuff on Jeff Sessions today coming out with some stuff going before the Supreme Court. See, now you got to ask yourself, now comes the pain. The pain's coming for these people. The justice is fixing to be served. So we have to be patient and just realize there's a plan in place. But this Judge Kavanaugh was a huge, huge deal.
You know what, folks? This was not about Brett Kavanaugh. It's not even really about SCOTUS. What this is, it's about these Baal worshippers and Jezebel, FYI church. She was a Baal worshiper. These demons are kicking and screaming, these Baal worshippers. Why? The spirit of Baal is alive and well. And what is at the central focal point of all this? It's child sacrifice. It's their food source, a.k.a. the butchering and the bloodshed of babies. Planned Parenthood, of course, being the baby butcher factory. Almost 70 million babies have been butchered. Their food source is on the line, folks.
Yes, and I want to go back to something you just said about the kids being the food source. And, when you talk about abortion being the food source for Baal, that's what's empowered the strongman Baal over America right now. And the second that Roe versus Wade comes down on a national level, this will have been broken, so to speak, and it will fall down to a state level at that point. But let's go back to how this all kind of joins together as pieces of the puzzle right here, where you've got the abortion, the sacrificing that takes place with the abortion, and now you've got the military tribunals for those who are corrupt. What is the connection with that? Well, let's talk about that. It's the child trafficking.
Bingo.
Here we go again with the children. It's the child sacrifices, that they're literally sacrificing kids unto their god Moloch or Baal. If you want, I try to keep it simple for people. There's 1,000, Baal's the god of 1,000 faces because he doesn't want to be found. You know what I mean? He's got 1,000 different names out there. There's certain items I don't wear, certain cars I don't drive because they're the names of Baal. And I'm not going to list them on this show. People do your research, you can find out. But there's a connection here. It's the child sacrifice, child sex trafficking. All this stuff is tied in with the kids because the kids are the food source for Baal. And that's what people have to understand. So there's a tie-in to the puzzle here with these kids that's going on right now. And they don't want Kavanaugh in here because of the military tribunals stopping the child sacrifice, child sex trafficking, and the abortion. They're going to stop it all at one shot. And that's what they don't want happening.
Yeah, you got that right. And hey, that's a really good segue. Let's listen to a clip. I posted this on Twitter. Boy, this fits nicely with this cabal of devils, doesn't it? Let's take a listen to an acceptance award.
I'd like to thank the devil and all the dark lords who
Don't do the devil stuff.
gave her this award and allowed her to feast on the flesh of the innocent.
Thanks, everybody.
Are you kidding me? This is funny to these people? So just so people know, she said, on behalf of Amy, I'd like to thank the devil and all the dark lords who gave her this award, allowing her to feast on the flesh of the innocent. Are you kidding me right now? And this is met with vitriolic chuckles.
Well, that's because they're trying to desensitize the public as to what's coming.
Bingo.
Because what's coming is going to be the information that is dropped as to what's been going on globally with these kids, the cannibalism, literally eating children, literally sacrificing kids to Satan himself, the child sex trafficking, the pedophilia. They're trying to desensitize the public to make mainstream, to make them think, oh, this is not a big deal. So they're making a joke out of it. It is a big deal. And what's even going to be worse, there's going to be people, Sheila, that choose to put their head in the sand like most of the church does. We've talked about this 100 times. When they find out what's been going on in some of these churches all over the world, including child sacrifice in these places that call themselves churches, it's going to blow people's minds, what's been going on in these churches. And it's going to come out. The truth will come out. So people need to prepare themselves.
Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. Many people, they always say, well, Sheila, we shouldn't get into politics. How's that working out for us?
How's that working out for you right now? That's what I always say. How's that working out for you right now? It's because we have taken God out of the realm of politics for those 30 pieces of silver, for that 501c3 we've always talked about. And it's how's that working out for you? If you want to know why the justice system is so corrupt or why the political system is so corrupt, it's because we've taken God out of it. God is in every aspect of life. And it's because the church hasn't done its job because they have this mindset that we shouldn't be involved in this. Again, mind control. If you want to go into mind control, that's part of it. They think we don't need to be a part of this. Yeah, how's that working out for us so far? This is why we're in the mess that we're in.
Well, that's right. And it all has to do with mind control. And I really believe it's time for me to do an expose on end time mind control spirits. And this really goes hand in hand with the mind blinding spirit. People are under a spiritual blindness. What does John 12:40 say? He's blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their heart. I mean, there's a beautiful scripture there in 2 Corinthians 4:4. What does it say there? It says, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not. So there you have it, mind blinding and mind control. And it ties into something you talk about, Mark, Satan's frequencies.
Yeah, and they can, again, search a matter out. You know what I mean? You can bombard us with questions, but we're just going to tell you guys lovingly, you've got to search a matter out. And this is all part of it. So Satan's frequency basically is when you listen to like the mainstream media is probably the biggest Satan's frequency out there right now. And they're tapped into a frequency basically that they detuned the frequencies to, I think, was 440 or something like that. They detuned it. It's supposed to be 444. They detuned it by 4 hertz. And what they found is that it creates confusion, panic, paranoia, fear, and it will damage your body organs. It literally can change your DNA from what the testing is showing. So their whole goal for the New World Order is to change your DNA from multiple ways. And we could do just a whole show just on how many ways, foods, all this stuff, to change your DNA. And heavy metal toxicity, fluoride or magnesium, whatever the case may be, this aluminum that they're spraying into chemtrails, it's all in your body, which makes you this gigantic antenna So now they bombard the airwaves with Satan's frequency at 440 hertz, and you're tapped into this. So when you listen to mainstream media, if you wonder why you get so irritated when you're listening to the news, that's why. And what happens is when you're getting bombarded with this, and this is what I tell people a lot of times, what's happening with a lot of prophetic people is that they're tapped into the same frequency because they're listening to the doom and gloom. And the Lord showed me, he says, the sign will be that when you give people good news and they can't receive it, you know they're tapped into Satan's frequency at that point. Their DNA is being changed. Now, can we change that? Absolutely we can. Change the channel, basically, literally, spiritually and physically. Stop listening to Satan's frequency. Start listening to the good news of what God's going to do. And so you've got this doom and gloom that's going on, and you're saturated with this stuff, so people are hearing the plans of the second heaven, and they're prophesying it if it were the plans of the third heaven. And so that's what you're seeing taking place right now.
But a lot of people do, challenge us on the, oh, yeah, okay, Mark and Sheila, you've been saying this for a year, that, these tribunals are coming and blah, 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 and when, and that we constantly get bombarded with this. Come on, step your game up here. Chop, chop. We want a date. I mean, it is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and I get hammered with that constantly. When is this going to happen? I can't take anymore. Guys, there's a plan in place. You have to understand this thing, I think, was even bigger than even what the president realized, than what Sessions realized, and they're just now finding out how big this thing is. And because of that, they have to have certain assets in place, which means we have to have the right judges in place. Notice they have this huge acceleration in confirming judges now all of a sudden. We've got all these corrupt judges. The last thing we want is for somebody like Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama to go before a corrupt judge or whoever it is out there, Eric Holder, and then all of a sudden they get turned loose like we've seen happen so many times under these Obama-appointed judges or these Clinton-appointed judges. So we have to have a certain amount of judges in place. We have to have the indictments. I think we're like over 55,000 now. I can't remember what the last number was now. Yeah. It's way up there. We've got all these cases, and all these cases are going to lead to other people. What people have to understand, my wife works in the court system. You can have multiple arrests per indictment. She worked on one case that had 11 arrests in one indictment. Do the numbers. Look at how many cases is that. They've got to put these cases together to where these people, they're not tampered with from corrupt officials. So they've got to make sure this stuff is airtight so these people don't walk. I would rather wait a little bit, Sheila, and be patient and make sure people like Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, these guys, when they're arrested, they don't walk.
Yeah.
They're going to go to prison for life. Now, here's what the other thing that people better get ready for, Sheila. They better get their mind set because there will be people who will be executed for treason. It's just fact. There are people that are going to get executed for treason. There are people that are going to go to prison for the rest of their life. And there may be some that will quietly walk away, whatever the case may be. You will see suicides, this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. So you better be prepared for what is coming.
Yeah.